Theft Auto 5 is consistently one of the best-selling games each week, almost 10 years after it was originally released. Yeah, bet that makes you feel old, cause it certainly does me. I remember watching the announcement trailer for GTA 5 back when I was in college. Excuse me while I have a Michael-like midlife crisis here. I'm gonna need some hot coffee. However, like me, GTA 5 may be showing its age, because we're finally starting to get our first hints of Grand Theft Auto 6, with Rockstar recently confirming that development of the game is, quote, well underway, and rumors constantly swirling about new characters and the game's location. Yet, while GTA 5 and GTA Online remain popular to this day, it's clear after the tragic launch of Grand Theft Auto the Trilogy Definitive Edition that even the mightiest of video game franchises can't rest on its laurels. So, I put together my list of what I want for the franchise that skipped an entire generation of consoles to do in order to update itself for today. Number 1, a new setting, but not in the present day. Okay, I'm going to start off my list a little bit controversially because some people just want to see the comments section burn. While it has not been confirmed, a lot of rumors and unconfirmed leaks have pointed to GTA 6 set to take a return to the seminal Vice City, the franchise's pastiche version of Miami, Florida. And many fans have actually been excited to possibly find themselves back in the world of the 80s style gangsters, pastel suits, and palm trees. However, some fans, such as myself, have never really been beach people, and even more so, think it's time for the series to branch out from constantly returning to old haunts and try something new. What would a Chicago, New Orleans, or Austin feel like in the twisted world of Grand Theft Auto? Or even further, how about stepping outside of the United States and give us a look at somewhere like London? And yes, I know the series has actually gone there before, but it would be cool to actually see GTA's version of London in 3 dimensions this time. However, one thing the series should steal from Vice City is a non-present day setting. Vice City's 80s vibe is what helped make that entry stand out. So perhaps a game set in the 70s or 90s could also lend this new installment a much needed sense of style and identity. Plus, if it's set during the 90s, we could maybe bring Pogs back into style. And who doesn't want Pogs to return? Number 2, multiple protagonists. Yeah, I know, I must hate myself because I'm doubling down on the controversial choices here. One of the most polarizing aspects of GTA 5 was its choice to feature multiple protagonists in its main story. And certainly this decision came with mixed results in terms of the actual plot. However, for me, I think it actually lent a truly unique ability for the game to make the world feel more alive. I adored jumping between different characters to just see what each of them was doing when I returned to them, like Michael doing yoga in his fancy house, or Franklin walking the streets of downtown, or whatever the hell Trevor was up to.
Me the psycho? No, you are the craziest chick I've ever met! I love you!
You're thin! You're irrationally angry! Nothing you say makes any sense! You are completely have no control of your emotions! We have nothing in common!
Oh, baby, we're made for each other!
Prove it!
It instantly put you into the feel of each character, to get to see their varied ways of existing within the city. With a tighter narrative, this varied perspective could help give the game's story some much needed legs, and yet continue to evolve the risks taken in GTA 5 without backpedaling on them. Hell, you could even marry this idea with the concept of different time zones from my last entry, with each character possibly living in a different time period of the same city, allowing for the series to truly take a big risk with the formula and show off the Rockstar team's creative skill. Number 3, a female protagonist. This one should hopefully not be a shock to anybody. Despite being one of the oldest and biggest gaming franchises that's still thriving, Grand Theft Auto has never centered a female playable character in any of its mainline games. In fact, it's kind of an understatement to say that Grand Theft Auto hasn't really been known to treat women, well, let's just say.
What kind of f***ing animal do you take me for? No, I didn't kill him. Oh, but I did kidnap his wife. Oh, no. Oh,
And while that may have been overlooked in previous entries, it would be deeply disappointing for a new iteration to continue that trend. But even more so, I don't want the game to just add a female protagonist just for the sake of it, just to, mark off that checkbox. But I actually think it would inject a much needed storytelling vibrancy to see a woman within the criminal world of the Grand Theft Auto games. Most women in gangster types of storylines get relegated to the role of wife or girlfriend, so it would actually allow the series to add a fresh twist to a somewhat stale genre. What would it be like for a woman to rise to prominence in the mob world? Or hell, why not feature a woman who gets to be as over-the-top bonkers as Trevor was in GTA 5? Having a woman yank herself into the driver's seat of the franchise could be a cool way to see this world with fresh eyes. Number 4, a stronger narrative. While the characters of Grand Theft Auto games have consistently been their strength, its plot sadly has not been. While it was interesting to see Trevor's antics or Michael's midlife crisis in Grand Theft Auto 5, the actual story descended into a convoluted mess of conspiracies and heists. The same thing happened in Grand Theft Auto 4, with Nico being a fairly intriguing lead left to languish in a pretty standard tale.
Life is complicated. I never thought I'd live like this.
No?
When the war came, I did bad things. And after the war, I thought nothing of doing bad things.
In fact, to my mind, San Andreas is the only game in the series to ever nail telling a truly engaging narrative front to back. Yet, it's clear that Rockstar can tell a strong narrative, with the Red Dead Redemption games being some of the most unique and memorable stories of the past few generations of gaming. So why not bring that same level of craft to the Grand Theft Auto series, and truly tell a story worthy of the game's legacy? But with that said, that brings me to number 5, more grounded insanity. Look, we all know that the Grand Theft Auto games can get pretty bonkers, especially when you play around in the game's sandbox. I mean, personally, my favorite thing to do playing Grand Theft Auto growing up was to use cheat codes to become invincible, spawn a rocket launcher, and then just start shooting everything that moved until an army of tanks showed up. And that same level of off-the-wall antics has continued into Grand Theft Auto Online. Yet, in the year since Grand Theft Auto 5's release, the Saints Row series has come and gone, and possibly may even come back again. And over the course of that franchise, it went from lighthearted parody of the Grand Theft Auto games to straight-up alien invasion superhero antics. It kind of feels like the era of parody in these types of games reached its zenith a few years ago. So, for Grand Theft Auto 6, while I would still want to have those over-the-top moments here and there, lending the story a more grounded sensibility overall may be the way to go, so that when those bigger moments do happen, they feel like true climaxes instead of tired parody. Number 6, a more lived-in world. Open world games have really evolved in the years since Grand Theft Auto 5 released, and while the more aimless feel may have been acceptable in 2013, it's certainly showing its age in 2022. Games like Red Dead or The Witcher or the recently released Elden Ring have shown that it's possible to have a large, sprawling world that also still feels like they exist beyond just being a playground for your player character. Having NPCs live their own lives and there being just generally more casual things to do around the world is a must for a new GTA. In fact, we should also see more interior locations too, ensuring that the GTA world doesn't just feel like one big outdoor area with some buildings in it to navigate around, but a true living, breathing city. Number 7, improved fighting mechanics. Okay, so I'm not asking for the Grand Theft Auto games to become Sifu or anything like that, because the series' gameplay focus should always remain on its guns. Yet, I think we can all kind of admit that punching in Grand Theft Auto games has never really felt fun, outside of maybe San Andreas. One of the best things Grand Theft Auto 6 could do is actually make punching out random pedestrians on the street feel oh so satisfying. Adding in a few small fighting mechanics could go a long way to making the gameplay feel fresh. Number 8, RPG-Lite Elements. Now, I don't want GTA to go all Assassin's Creed on us and turn away from its arcade roots into a more grounded RPG. However, one fun element of San Andreas was its light RPG elements, allowing you to really craft your character in your own unique way. Staying fit or building up stats was a lot of fun, and a return to some of those elements could be a cool way to really build upon previous entries in the franchise. Plus, being honest, I'll probably just end up only eating fast food like I do in real life. Good talk radio. It goes without saying that any Grand Theft Auto game worth its salt should feature an iconic soundtrack. However, my personal favorite thing in any Grand Theft Auto game has got to be the talk radio channels. I have a ton of fond memories of listening to the hilariously over-the-top NPR station while playing Liberty City Stories on my PSP.
You've alienated all your friends, huh? Have you?
Yeah, mostly because I listen to your show all the time and I tell people they should live by your advice.
Oh yeah, I did own a PSP, and actually, I still have it. Also, by the way, I dug this out for this little bit in this video, and I didn't check what was inside it, and I found that I had a copy of Spider-Man 2 in it, like the movie, not the game. Do y'all remember when we were told that we would be watching movies on this thing? Like, UMDs are the way of the future. The past is weird. But coincidentally, speaking of Spider-Man, games like Marvel's Spider-Man and its spin-off Miles Morales have continued this talk radio trend, with J. Jonah Jameson's rant and conspiracy-fueled podcast being one of the most fun world-building elements of those games.
People, I always thought Spider-Man was a few geese short of a gaggle, but this confirms it.
As if that atrocious white spider wasn't enough, I've had repeated sightings of him in a new outfit. Some sort of punk rock-inspired thing that makes sane people want to tear out their eyeballs with a rusty spoon.
Sadly though, the talk radio shows of Grand Theft Auto V were fairly lackluster, so it would behoove any new entry of the Grand Theft Auto franchise to help restore the series' glory days and bring us some new talk shows. Single-player DLC. Yeah, I know I'm probably getting a little bit ahead of myself thinking about DLC before the main game is even out, but I think GTA 5 fans have all felt the disappointment at the lack of single-player additional content for the game. Rather, given the cash cow that is GTA Online, Rockstar has instead focused mainly on building out its multiplayer component instead. While there have been some single-player missions here and there for GTA, like the recent Franklin story missions, they felt few and far between and more like side quests than true big additions to the GTA world. Yet, while single-player DLC may not be as money-generating as its online counterparts, some of Grand Theft Auto 4's best moments came from its DLC additions, The Ballad of Gay Tony and The Lost and the Damned. So in addition to just a greater focus on single-player in the main game, it would be a welcome return to form for GTA 6 to give us even more bonkers and risk-taking side stories in additional DLC. That's my list for what I want in Grand Theft Auto 6, but I know a lot of my choices were probably, let's just say, divisive, so I'd love to hear your thoughts below. Would you rather return to Vice City? Do you think the franchise should actually go even more over the top instead? And what else would you like to see? I'd love to hear all that down in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel for more GTA coverage as it comes out. And if you can't wait, you can check out our rankings for all the Grand Theft Auto games. But until then, I am going to start replaying Vice City stories on my PSP, and I thank you so much for watching.